Culture Hustle claims that their gold is the world's goldiest gold paint. So today I thought I'd try that as well, try some of this hobby's biggest paint brands to see which paint actually is the world's goldiest gold. Hey everyone, you're watching Squidmar Schminish. I'm Emil. Are you excited to figure out which gold is the best one? Because I sure am. Is it the Culture Hustle gold or is it the $3 Army Painter paint? And which gold is the worst gold paint in the world? So let's do this quickly so we can jump to the most interesting part. We got 14 paints. Let's sort this with 3 different tests on all of the paints to figure out which one is actually the best. Let's see how the paint acts with a normal brush on a flat surface. Let's see how it does with an airbrush on a flat surface and how it looks on a real miniature, the way that we would see it on a gaming table. And when this is done, we're going to do a blind test and vote on which one we think looked the best and which one has the finest texture. But before we get started, let me just tell you how much I appreciate when you guys gently caress the subscribe button. Just tap it slowly, gently with the tip of your finger, as my happiness solely depends on how much you gently caress that subscribe button. Please do it for the sake of my happiness. We got the following paints to test. Culture Hustle Goldiest Gold, Citadel Retributor Armor, the go-to paint for Warhammer models like Stormcasts.
Is that Citadel gold you're using there? I'm all the way over here in the US and I could still see the pigment.
Army Painter Greedy Gold. A lot of people have been raving about these Scale 75 metal paints. Let's see how they actually are. Scale 75 Dwarven Gold, Scale 75 Elven Gold, AK Interactive Old Gold, AK Interactive Gold. My current favorite, but one that is a pain in the buttocks to paint with, Vallejo Liquid Gold. One that I hopefully can replace after these tests. Vallejo Metal Color Gold, P3 Blighted Gold, AK True Metal Gold Wax. Green Stuff World Pure Metal Gold, another really fun paint that I've been excited to try out. It's one that I have to mix with medium myself because it's only gold pigments in the box. Pro Acryl Rich Gold, and a final one that's in a medium that I haven't painted with a lot before, and that is an oil-based gold paint from Abteilung 502. These are some NPC miniatures from the board game Limbo. So here we got them all. The most beautiful collection of Goldie boys you've ever seen. We mixed the figures around quite a lot so we wouldn't have any clue which one is which paint brand. And then me, Lucas and Victor are grading these paints incredibly scientific on 2 scales. How good we think they look on the miniature as well as how the color tone is. And while we're doing this, checking out all of the awesome miniatures and grading them, let me tell you about this week's sponsor, Mindwork Games. They make some of the most characterful 75mm miniatures on the market. Every piece they've released tells a story. They have so much personality. They're working with some of the most legendary fantasy artists like Brom and Patrick Jones to make their art into miniature sculpts and thus it covered in glory. The reason why I'm talking about them today is because this week they released a brand new website as well as probably one of my favorite pieces they've ever done to this date, Hair of the Moon. So if you're into miniature painting and want to try something new, maybe not wargaming related, but something just to paint for the sake of painting something, to give you creative freedom and inspiration, definitely check out their website. I had a couple of minis on the way, but due to COVID shipping, unfortunately I don't have them to show to you. So instead you get to see these awesome photos of these minis, but I guess that looks quite amazing too. So right now, to celebrate the publication of the new website and their collab with me, they decided to give 10% off the coming 7 days to anyone who orders and uses the code SQUIDWORK. So just follow the link down in the video description to get 10% off your first order. But hurry up, because the code is only available for 7 days. Let's get back to the gold. So the results are in, and which miniature paint is actually the best gold? And which one is the worst? Here are the totals for all of the paints. Well, first off, the paint could look very different through an airbrush and with a regular brush. But even with that, there's a few that stand out. So let's start with a couple of things with the normal brush. The most enjoyable to paint with a regular brush was definitely Pro Acryl Rich Gold and Green Stuff World Pure Metal Gold. Smooth coverage with one layer and the tones and pigments looked great. Vallejo Liquid Gold came in third place in terms of look with a regular brush, but because it's using alcohol-based medium instead of acrylic-based, it just could not reach the level of the first two. It's just so much more difficult to paint with. The most painful one was definitely Culture Hustle Gold, which was pretty much impossible to get smooth with a regular brush and shoot through an airbrush. It just splattered everywhere. Followed shortly by the wax paint and the oil paint. Grading the miniatures was so difficult because all of the different paints had different strengths and weaknesses, and the color tones were quite different between the different ones. And as mentioned, shooting through the airbrush and painting with a regular brush made the paints look completely different. But with this blind test, the clear #1 winner when shooting paint through the airbrush was actually, drumroll, Citadel Retributor Armour. I could not believe my eyes. It had none of that weird sheen that we get when we paint with a normal brush, and both Victor and Lucas had this one on top. Followed closely by the Green Stuff World Pure Gold and the Scale 75 Dwarven Gold. This was a tight race. The worst one through the airbrush was the Vallejo Metal Color Gold. Not the liquid gold, but the metal color one. It looked more like silver with like a weird green yellowy ink in it. And the Abteilung 502 and the True Metal Wax from AK also looked quite bad. And when we combine the different scores between the regular brush and the airbrush, we got a few winners. And remember, with this total, the lower score they have, the better. Coming in on third place, Scale 75 Dwarven Gold with 6 points. And just with a hair's margin slightly before that, we got Pro Acryl Rich Gold with 5.8 total. And finally, smashing both these and all of the others even more so out of the waters was in first place with a total score of 3.65. We got Green Stuff World's Pure Metal Pigments. I did not see this coming. And here are the total rankings for the rest of the colors when all of the scores were combined. I had not expected to see Citadel paint that high up, but through the airbrush it looked really good. With the brush, not as much. So is Culture Hustle's paint the goldiest gold paint? Well, if 9th place is the best, it sure does. So was there one that was just so much better than all of the others that you'd throw your old paints out the window? Well, honestly, not really. It's quite difficult to answer a question like that. My personal favorites were definitely the Green Stuff World and the Pro Acryl paints. I totally recommend these. I will definitely be changing out my golds to these two. I can also really recommend the P3 Blighted Gold. It looked a lot darker than the other paints and it will be perfect as a gold shadow. But there are many of these paints that look great. And with that, you had the scientific result on which one was our favorite gold paint. Was there any surprises to you? Which one is your favorite gold paint? And again, if you want some awesome minis, don't forget to check out Mindwork Games' new awesome mini Hair of the Moon. And use the code Squidmar if you want 10% off. You have 7 days to pick it up with that discount. Massive thanks to all of my patrons. You guys are amazeballs. And with that said, have a great day. Bye bye.